All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome, welcome. Okay. Tonight is a masterclass and a craft night. So it's just everything for women docs. What do we need? Oh, what do you need? Put it in the comments, in the chat. What do you need, women docs? We have a lot going on, right? All right, I got my tea. Look at this cool mug. I just started pottery. I did not make this one, but I want to. Okay. So welcome. I'm glad you're here. Um, Let me shut this other stuff off so we can get going. Okay, so this is for women docs, so we can go over 3 ways. Yes, 3 ways that we can navigate that feeling of stuck, that feeling of there must be something more. The status quo is not okay. That came up a lot in a recent meeting I was part of. The status quo is not okay in any way. Here in my state, nationally, globally, there are so many things that need to change. We all know that. I'd like to talk about the neuroscience to help further people. So, what can we know about our neuroscience so people can find hope and solutions? We want solution based thinking, right? We don't want reactive, lots of emotions, and people not being helped. We want to help people who need to be helped. As helpers, we want to make sure that we're doing what we can for our sustainability personally, right? Emotionally, mentally, all those things. And so that's why we're here tonight. This is for women doctors. Thanks for joining. Appreciate you. And if you're hearing this on the replay, just tell me where you're from, what state. I love to know where people are coming from, what country, what state. It's just fun to think about where everybody is. I hope you're safe where you are. And, we all need to be an advocate for compassion, for honesty, for the rule of law. This needs to happen, right? Absolutely. So do what you can and where you are, but also safety is important for you and your family and your community. Um, and also not shrinking. We have to realize the power that we have as citizens. We have powers, and we can learn about that. If you're not sure, then call your state representative, your state senator, your federal senator, your federal level representative, and tell them what you're thinking about, what you're seeing. It's really important. It's very important. It really matters. They count the calls. They may not, get back to you directly, but they count the calls. They care if people are watching, if people are saying something, they care. Okay, so, but let's get back to what we can do today for women doctors who are busy doing so many things. Just tell me in the chat how many hours you work today. Anywhere from 3 would be amazing. 10, 12, were you on call? Are you a medical student or a resident or a fellow or ICU doc? Is somebody working all night? Somebody on call? How many hours? Yeah, just put it in the chat. Thank you for your hard work and all you do. I just had a call from hospice today about my aunt. So, I thank people who do all different things in medicine, birth the babies, help the people out on the other end of the world, the other end of the life spectrum. Just came from a funeral tonight. So, that is life, right? So people are born, people pass away, and we in healthcare are part of it all, right? A lot of times depends what you do in healthcare. If you feel like putting in the chat, what area of healthcare you work in. I'm neurology. I'm Dr. Mary Rensel. I'm a neuroimmunologist in my job, and I'm also a business owner of a business called Brain Fresh, and I bring women docs together in a membership called Fresh Path MD, and I'll put the link in the notes in the chat here so you can get to it. But come join us. We have a free version just so you can get access to this kind of stuff. And you can just get resources and get a community. What do we do there? We focus on what we can do to live intentionally at whatever level career you're at as a woman doc. And then how do we build support? Because nobody should go it alone. A lot of times the societal message is we have to figure this out. That's not real, right? So we know we don't have to go it alone. And then how do we feel like we have an impact in what's important to us now? So we have to go back to what is important to us now? And so we figure that out in my one-to-one coaching. But we'll figure that out. We'll have some master classes in Fresh Path as well. So we take some time, figure out right now what is important to us today, who can help us move forward in this area, how do we have an impact? Because we all want to make sure our lives matter. I just came from a funeral, just 30 minutes ago. Um, Pictures all over the wall of this gentleman who lived a big life, in his work, in his service to our country, and being a grandparent, being a dad, being, obviously a life partner, a friend. It was packed. We waited for hours to get through, and that's not normal, right? When somebody's mid 80s and passes away, a lot of times all their friends and family are is way smaller, and they don't even have a funeral sometimes. This person filled the whole building, lines, pictures, big celebration. So, um, here's to people that show other people that you're important to you, to them, and big love and big families and, um, really strong connections, because that means you live well. So that's what I want to make sure that I'm giving you all the tools that I found and how to live intentionally as a busy woman doc. I'm a mom of four. My youngest is in college. The other three are out of the house, they have their own places. And so, there were really busy years where just like, how do we even just have dinner or get the kids to where they need to get to and who's where and did I forget anybody? And then, it gets a little quieter in some ways or different, as they get older. Sometimes bigger problems, but not as physically active. And so it changes over the years, right? And now they're mostly out of the house. And so I have time to focus. And, there comes a day when you think, okay, there's an end to this, right? There's an end to my career. There's an end to the years I'll be working. Have I put everything in there that I wanted? So let's talk about it. So, women docs, how do we make sure everything is in our days, in our life that's important to us, right? So, to start there, we first have to say, like, what is important to us? And so we figure that out in Fresh Path. We figure that out in my one-to-one coaching, obviously at deeper levels. Um, I'm, just finishing up working for 6 months with one doc, an amazing surgeon, amazing human, who wants to help other surgeons, other women surgeons. It's just like, oh, amazing. So she's building all these tools. Amazing. Very intentional. But, our time coaching one-to-one, we could just hit those mindset gaps or mindset hurdles. A lot of times we believe we can only do X, Y, or Z because society has told us, doctors don't tend to start businesses. That's just unusual. It's atypical, but not zero. And so we have to go over some hurdles. Most of the time as women docs, we have not had any business classes. And so we don't know anything about business starting, designing, starting, implementing, growing, sustaining a business, all the steps. So I became a business coach. I was in a curriculum for a year with a company called Hello 7 and became a business coach so I could help other women docs. If they want to think about a business, think about what in their life, what are their special gifts and how to package that into a business and how to design it, how to start it with one little step at a time so that you can just slowly maybe grow a side hustle or a full business, whatever you're most interested in. I had another doc I was coaching and she wanted to start a private practice. So we went through the whole process of dreaming up a business, and then what are the steps, the actual boots on the ground steps to building a business, legally and in our state, etc. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not an accountant. Of course, everyone building a business needs to have a team, especially a lawyer and accountant. Absolutely. Okay. So women docs feeling stuck. Why does that happen? Number one, people are really super tired, right? So I was at a conference with a bunch of women docs and we were talking about brain wonder. Like, how do we, not even brain wonder, but just wondering, like, what if we had time to just wonder what it could be like or just dream something up? And we were like, we would need a day off and we would need to have someone cook for us and just really great nutrition and really great meals and be really well rested before we could even feel rejuvenated enough to wonder. So I have lived intentionally especially since I opened this business 6 years ago, called Brain Fresh. So that I do things. I do a lot of things. People always say you do a lot of things, but I do just a little bit regularly. So I move forward things that are important to me. So I have a three bucket approach. I also teach in my coaching and in Fresh Path. We can go over it if you're interested. Put three buckets, and we'll go over that as well in Fresh Path. Um, and so, I know where I'm going. I know where I want to go. And I think that's a lot of times half the battle with women docs is not sure where you even want to go. Sometimes you know what you don't want to do. It's very clear you want to do less of these things, but you're not sure what are the other options on the other side of that. So that's what we do in my one-to-one coaching and my business coaching. So we can take some time to figure that out. Okay. So in this video, we're going to talk about the challenges of women docs professionally developing or even building a program in your institution for women docs. All the challenges, we're going to go over a manuscript where they shared their challenges, and they did a review and looked through a lot of manuscripts and dug through, especially emergency room women docs who has tried what in different department or not different departments, but different institutions, and what's worked and where their challenges. So we'll go over that manuscript. I'll share my own experience. I've shared some already, and we'll talk about three ways to get out of stuck. Okay. So number one, so this manuscript, the author is Dr. Frisch, Frisch. It was published in 2024. It's called Women's Professional Development Programs for ER Physicians, a Scoping Review. So they looked at 149 articles that had reported different professional development programs for women docs in various institutions, trying various things. They whittled it down to about 10 that talked about three common themes: mentorship, role models, and career advice. Okay, so again, listen to that career advice. So we always are, it's always kind of understood in medicine, like you figure out your path. You have to go figure out what's important to you. You need to go find the resources. You do it. You do it yourself. And that's not what these reviews found, is that the most successful programs, they work together. They were a team. They supported each other. And that's 100% what we do in Fresh Path. We get together and make sure that, we know we're supported. We're not alone in this journey, in our professional journey, and figuring out our next steps from a holistic life sense or a professional journey sense, right? But women docs, we tend to move fast. So really just stopping once in a while and thinking, like, what do I want? When all my kids left, when I was an empty nester, and I was like, what do I want? And it took me a long time to be able to answer it. So the recommendation is to write for 15 minutes, set a clock, and just write, because it'll help you kind of process your thoughts about what you may want. Because sometimes we know what we don't want, but we don't know what we do want. So we can't get there if we don't know what we want. So this is what we do in Brain Fresh and Fresh Path MD. We get very clear about where we want to go. We set, if you want to think like, I want to get across this river, I can see the other side of the river, or you need little stepping stones, safe ones, pretty close, so you can make it to the other side. So that's what we do in Fresh Path, is we figure out where we want to go so that we can set our little stepping stones across the river and get there a little bit at a time. There's no rush, right? We're not in a rush. We want to make sure it's done well, that we're not slipping and sliding on the stones across the river, right? We want to set our path and make it clear a little bit at a time, right? Okay. So back to this article by Dr. Frisch. They're looking at women doctors' professional developmental programs at various institutions. So they came up with 10 programs that shared the most important things that they found were mentorship, having role models, and finding someone that could give you career advice. They also found a really strong priority towards promoting professional advancement, promoting leadership, and increasing the academic reach within that in their department. So, if you're assistant professorship, they wanted more to go to associate, or associate to go to professor. If you're at an academic institution, that's kind of the levels, assistant to associate to full professor. And it takes various things to get through those levels. And it takes either a lot of teaching, a lot of writing, a lot of lecturing, regionally for first levels, and then nationally. And people have to know you and agree that, you've hit these certain marks so that you can be called these professor at these various levels. And so people that don't know you maybe you've been on, you've done one little thing with them, or they've heard your name. They can evaluate you and see, what, and give it their opinion if they think you've hit these levels. So it's kind of an odd thing in that your information goes around nationally, and then they vote to see if you should be assistant or full professor. Yeah. Okay. So in these programs, they found that there were plenty of challenges. Okay, so some common challenges that the various institutions came across when they were trying to create a women doc professional developmental program. Money, because institutions didn't think they had to put any money toward it, even though the numbers. We were just looking at this in another meeting. Is that medical school, like I went to medical school 30 years ago, and my class was 50-50 because it was a state school. But other classes at this point, medical school is 50-50, women, men. But yet, faculty is somewhere around 40% nationally of women docs. And then deans were around 26, don't quote me, but it was somewhere around 26, 27%. Hospital leaders were even less so. And so, we have half the docs right now are women, but only a quarter of the leaders are women. And so something has to change in order to change that gap, right? It's just not chance that it's like that, right? And so what did they find that the challenges were, and even putting something in their institution to try to change that gap, to find solution-based thinking, money. So institutions did not think that they needed to pay for this, or there was a lack of money toward it. Support. So there was no time or money support towards it. Recruiting women were busy. They didn't have time to even do it because they were so busy. They were just trying to get their work done. The institutions weren't even recognizing the program. They weren't given any professional time toward the program. It wasn't sustainable. It was maybe one person that started it, but it wasn't sustainable in an institution. So there were many reasons that women doc professional development programs did not last. They were not sustainable. Money, support, institutional recognition, etc. So if you know of a great institution that does a lot of great work in this space, if you put it in the chat, it would be nice to acknowledge people that are doing really wonderful work. I know AMWA is just a national leader, AMWA, the American Medical Women Association. So they have so many levels of support from medical students on all the way to dean, to try to support women docs all along their journey for education and leadership development and support in so many ways. And so they're a great institution to watch, 100%. And so the conclusion of this was that it's very difficult to maintain a women doctor professional leadership developmental program in various institutions. This was for emergency room doctors, but they were looking for programs that promoted professional advancement, promoted leadership, and increased academic levels. So put in the chat your thoughts. You surprised? Yes or no? Surprise? You could put surprise face. Anyone? Probably not. Not so surprised. Okay. So yeah, what's your experience if you want to share? Have you been invited to any leadership? If you're a woman doctor, if you want to share what your experience is, just say yes or no in the chat. Were you ever invited to a women doc leadership developmental program? At your institution, locally, nationally, anything. A lot of people have not been. So they graduate medical school, and that's the end of their education. Leadership is a skill. It needs to be built over time. It also needs to be implemented. So there's skills like you can read about riding a bike, but you need to go ride a bike, right? So same thing with leadership skills. You can read about them all you want, but you need to go, get a job, get a stretch goal, just keep implementing what you're learning, right? Okay. So personally myself, I also was looking for growth opportunities, and it felt strange. It just felt like I was unusual, or asking for something that was atypical, because I love to keep learning. I wanted to keep learning. And so a lot of times we were told there wasn't the money or the time to get into certain programs. I got into some national leadership developmental programs, which are wonderful, and even some institutional, which were great too. I just love to meet new people and keep learning and building skills like so many people should, right? In our professional journey, especially if it's 30 years, we want to have time points where we're learning something new and we're building new skills in over 30 years, right? Of course. Okay. So it wasn't that anything was bad or wrong. It's just that I was not satisfied because I was not learning. So there were times in my career that I wanted to keep learning and I would look for opportunities to learn. And so I just didn't, it's almost like staying in third grade forever or like being an intern our whole career. We don't want to stay in one level. We want to keep learning and building our skills. So here's to you. If you want to keep, if you're a builder and you want to keep learning and building skills, just put build in the chat. That would be great. I'd just love to know that you just want to keep on building. And so, I built my Fresh Path MD. So come and join us. I'll put it in the chat. But the reason I built it is because I wanted to have my own party bus that I could drive around and put in what I thought was important and have a party and just keep people together so that while we're learning, we can have fun and honor the fact that it's hard being a women doc. There's a lot of stressors and there's a lot of messages that are not real, but that tell us that we have to be alone and we have to figure this out alone. And sometimes you don't want to say like, I don't know, I'm kind of feeling stuck. I'm feeling stretched. I need some help. And there's not a lot of places you can do that. And so it's okay if you feel like you need a new party bus to hang out in, come to Fresh Path MD, where we're going to learn how to focus. We're going to learn the neuroscience of focus, support, and impact. That's what we're going to work on. We're going to intentionally live. We're not going to waste any time or energy towards something that's not important to us. Life is too short. There's so much going on locally, nationally, globally right now. We cannot waste our time or energy on anything that's not important to us, right? We need to be ready to help other people. There's a lot of people suffering. And so we need to be there and ready and building our skills as we go, right? So we can assume all the roles that need to be assumed to keep this place a safe place. Yeah. Okay. So, what are some myths about learning as a woman doc? Some myths are that we have to wait for the employer to say it's your turn to learn. Okay. So now you can learn. That's not a fact, right? I mean, sometimes your employer will educate you, which is wonderful, but we drove our own learning, right? So we got ourselves into medical school, through college somehow, medical school, residency. Of course, there were so many people that helped us along the way. So put in the chat like someone that comes to mind when you say like, oh, they really supported me through that journey. Or somebody told you could go to medical school. For me, it was my friend Jane in college. I wasn't a pre-med major in college. And she was like, you could do it. I think you can do it. And I just hadn't really even entertained it. There wasn't even a part of me that thought I would go to school so long or go into a profession that took so long to train for. I was a physician's assistant major in college. So I started as that. And then the learning was so fast. I wanted to know more. I was in school learning about things that were really interesting. And so it was really neat because my advisor in my PA school, he was super kind. And he was like, yes, if you want to change majors, of course. He supported me through that. So I owe a shout out to him. I think his name was Jim Schumann, maybe. It was at Gannon University. He was a great guy. And really kind. And so then, there's people in your path, right, that probably helped you along the way. Probably a lot of people. I mean, I could think of a long list of all my training years. But let's go back to these myths. Okay. Number one myth is that we don't have to wait to say like, now is your time to learn. You can go out and find your own resources. I mean, you're here on YouTube. There's a lot of free knowledge on YouTube. So if there's something you want to know more about, like go on YouTube and look up 10 videos. You probably learn a lot about a certain leadership skill. You can follow me on YouTube. Mine is Brain Fresh Today. Just follow me. I give a lot of free tips for the last, I don't know, like 3 years on YouTube. So go through them all there. It's all free. You don't have to pay for a thing. Okay. And then, so number one is learning, and learning can be free. Of course, it'll take some time, but you need to know what you want to learn about. So that's what we do in Fresh Path MD, is that we figure out where do we want to go. Like we take the time to figure out what's important to us in these 7 spheres in our life and just make a plan, little teeny stepping stones across the river at a time. Okay. So let me get some tea. You need tea? Take some tea. Tea break. Okay. So, um, do you have to fund your own growth? Is that okay? Is that a myth that you have to fund it or somebody else should fund it? What do you think? Put fund or no fund? I've done both, right? So sometimes people have funded my growth, sometimes I fund my growth. I would say on the majority, I have funded my growth, the majority of it, I would say. Um, but there's been other people who have funded my growth, and I very much appreciate that. Um, Definitely, my family helped me get through college. I took out loans, but they helped. They did something what they could. Um, and so there's other people that helped along the way. Um, but mostly I took out loans through med school and to live and have food during med school because I didn't work during med school. Residency, you get a little money when you're a resident. Did you know? You get paid, you get benefits. It's not a lot. It's something to live on. Depends on what city, I think, and what level of resident you're on. I don't know. It's been a long time for me. So I kind of remember 30,000 or 40,000, but I don't know what it is today. Um, okay. Is it wrong to want to grow? So there was a time I thought, like, I just want to do something. I want to keep going. I want to build. I want to learn. I want to learn how to build something. I'm a builder, I decided. And so, what are you? Are you a builder? Yes, no. But it felt wrong because I didn't see a lot of people around me growing and learning, especially about a business. I didn't, that's what I wanted to learn about because I didn't know anything about it. And, um, I just thought, well, why would a woman doc want to build that? And then I met Sasha Shilcutt. She's cool. If you don't know her, look up Brave Enough. She's amazing. So look her up. She does amazing things to support women docs. And she came to speak at our institution and she told me, I said, who's on your team? So she said she had an accountant and a lawyer. And, she told us who was on her team because she had started a business. And she just made it real, and so that's after that is pretty close after that, I built something I call my Ocean 11 team. So I put 11 women from different backgrounds together and we just we met periodically, kind of like the Sheryl Sandberg lean in kind of style. And we just met and shared our challenges and, what's going on in their industry. I remember somebody was a CEO of like an HVAC company, like heaters and water heaters and home heaters and all those kind of things. So she led mostly men, that worked for her, but she was the CEO, so it's just neat to hear in different industries what was going on, and that just opened my mind, and I think it showed me women doing all really, really amazing stuff, and just that everyone had challenges at the moment. Sometimes people could come or not because they were so busy. So the myths are waiting for your employer to say it's time to grow. You can fund your own that, you don't have to fund. You don't have to wait for your employer to fund your growth. You can fund it. The other myth is that it's wrong to want to grow. That's not true. To feel vital, to feel alive, we're learning, we're growing. Okay. Isolation, we should learn all by ourselves. Not true as well, because when we have a growth team, it's called our accountability group or growth team, we get places faster. So that's why I built another reason I built Fresh Path MD, so we could do this together. Okay. And then we need to learn, but also implement. So we can sit and read books. A lot of us are really good at learning. We're fast. We're good readers. We love reading, but we also need to implement, and that's the scary or the uncertain part because we don't have the neural pathways yet if it's new to us. Right. And so if we are going to do something new, like start a business, we have to figure out the action steps to take and to start with one little step at a time. Right. So those are the myths that we learn in med school, is that you wait, someone tells you when it's time to learn, you do it all by yourself. You're strange because you want to learn, especially if you want to learn about business, you're strange. And that we only read books to learn. No, we need to do something. We need to take action. Okay. All right. So put what you're thinking in the chat. Was this helpful? Yes or no? Why don't you tell me the most helpful thing you heard tonight? That would be great. And then, join us in Fresh Path MD. We're a small group. We're growing steadily. And imagine you have focus, you feel supported, your work is going to have impact, where you want to go. See, the problem is we know where we don't want to be a lot of times, but we don't know where we're going. So we change that in Fresh Path. So just join us. And please like and subscribe so that you get more of my videos. I do at least one a week, so that you can be part of it and just keep learning. We feel more vital. We feel more alive when we're learning. Okay. And then, if you want to do a neurologic craft, hold tight. Let me get a big piece of paper. I'll show you something. Let me get my paper, my markers. So this is a craft it helps us with our stress levels, right? I can't open. Oh, here we go. I didn't know how to open the markers. That's pretty bad. Okay. So my favorite color is green. So I'm going to choose green. I have some markers. These are actually Brilliant Brush, it's called. So they're kind of like painting, but with markers. So they're super cool. See? Brilliant Brush. I highly recommend them. They're called brush markers, soft brush tips for colorful drawing and hand lettering. Okay, so get a big piece of paper or a little piece, whatever you like. Just get a piece of paper. I have a big sketch pad. Let's just go to a blank piece of paper. I have some sketching in here from, I think it was my son's or daughter's in their art class. So we have lots. Here's where we're going to get to. Okay, I'm going to show you. And this is not, so we're going to get to, this is some neurologic sketching. Okay, so how do we get there? First of all, here's my son's sketch from art. That's his own face. Okay, so we're going to work on something like this. So get a piece of paper, any size. All right, I'm going to get this. All right, I just have a blank piece of paper. Step number 2, get a pen at least, any pen. I'm using these markers called Brilliant Brush, just because they're kind of fun. You can use the tip or you can push down and you get a thicker line. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your pen and put it down and then just start scribbling, but don't pick up your pen, okay? Just start scribbling all over the whole page, the whole paper. I'm going to set mine down because it's way easier. And just, there's no right or wrong. You just keep squiggling until you have a good amount of the page covered. And there's no, I like circles, but you can do any kind of shape. Just have it get into the corners. Try to get rid of the big empty white spots. Okay. All right, and then end it somewhere in a line so you can't really see the beginning and end of any line. All right, I'll show you mine. There's no right or wrong, okay? Just a scribble, okay? And then you can take that color or different colors, and you're just going to make designs, lines or designs in each little section. Okay, so let's say like that little section, I just put some orange lines. And then I'm going to choose something else and just maybe color in or make some triangles somewhere else like that. Okay, and this is just peaceful, right? No phones. You can have a cup of tea or whatever your beverage of choice is. Okay, and this is something you could do if you're on call, if you're a medical student or a resident and you're on call, and you're just kind of in the call room and you're just, you don't know if you're going to get called. Should you go to sleep? What should you always sleep first? But if you just happen to be awake, you're not tired yet, you can do something like this. Just, you can get a piece of paper and just put your phone down for a while, because phones give us a lot of dopamine, on, off dopamine, on, off dopamine. And we really just, we need to kind of cool down a little bit, and using our hands like this, just looking around, it gets our focus. Okay. So tell me what colors you're using. Just put it in the chat. Just this kind of stuff. There's no right or wrong. You're just going to keep every little section. You can do a different little design, or you could color it in. You could even make circles, X's, whatever you like. More squiggles in every little section. I'm just doing some purples. Okay. Put in the chat what's your favorite color. Mine is teal. I'm going to see. I don't really have a good teal in this set. And why do we do this? See if you can do this for at least 15 minutes. You're just coloring and trying just to refocus your brain and just let it relax a little. Okay, let it cool off from a busy day. No phones. This is just neuro sketching, if you want to say. It's just time to cool off. The brain's done a lot. And if you're at work and you have, projects that's due or something, you could do something like this just for like 5 or 10 minutes. It decreases your cognitive load of things that are on your mind, because this is very simple, right? Like we're just making little patterns. There's no pressure. You can't do it wrong, right? So this is a way to kind of rebuild your focus. This is like parasympathetic time. So that here, let's just get this crocheted brain. Ooh, I had lights up there. Okay, crocheted brain. See, you're just trying to relax the brain a little bit. The executive function in the front of the brain has been like going gangbusters, right? So you want your limbic system, which is kind of in the center, to cool off. You just want to cool off a little bit. So another way you could do it is gray screen your phone. Then it's less attractive to be on it all the time. It kind of looks like the screen's broken or something when you gray screen your phone. If you don't know how to gray screen your phone, just put gray in the comments, and I could send you a little video on how to do it. Or if you need me to make a video about it, I could show you. But it does make a difference when you gray screen your phone. I saved like an hour of phone time one time when I did it. I take it on and off because I can't wordle when it's on gray screen. But it does help when it's on. Okay, so mine's looking like something like this. Again, no right or wrong. We're just here. What are we doing with this? We're probably calming our blood pressure, our pulse. We are telling our brain it doesn't really have to focus too much right now. It can daydream a little bit. So there's a part of the brain called the default network. It's when you truly are daydreaming. You're staring out the window doing nothing. That's called your default network. And that also is when the brain kind of files. It takes the information from the day. It has different waves. It's a different activity of the brain. And so we want to make sure we give it that kind of time, the brain, give it some default network time, some filing time, because we can't only ask our brain for things. Next month, which is February, we are going to have a puppy love themed month. So we're going to do, how to love your brain as well as you love your dog in February, because it's Valentine's Day month. And there's things that we can do, simple things that help us focus, help us see solutions easier. And this is one of them, just slowing down. All right. So 10 or 15 minutes of this so that your brain can just slow, your muscles kind of relax a little. You're not in a goal-oriented mind right now. You're just chilling. You're just playing around. Play is good. Fun is good. Okay, that's a good state for the brain. The brain needs some fun. It's a good state for the body, fun, because it's positive. You're usually laughing. You're usually with someone else. So fun is also a good neurologic state. So I'll tell you where I left this. And then if you would like to be invited to our February challenge of Fresh Path with our neurologic sketches, let me know. I'll put it in the chat. Keep sketching. Keep going. Deep breath. Relax. It's amazing what you do. Like and subscribe here, and so that you'll get more of these. You got it. Okay. Thanks for coming, guys. We'll see you later.